What's happening, party people? So, rather than doing a political vlog today, wearing my cool anti-corporate glasses and my little blue plaid Irish cap, I'm just rolling raw dog out here in nature with none of that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about parental alienation. And parental alienation isn't really the right term for it. It's really familial alienation, because my kids haven't seen their grandparents, haven't seen their uncles or aunts or cousins or anybody in my entire family in years. It's literally been, I think, over 4 years now since they've seen any family member of my family at all. Other than, I think, Everett's birthday party where my cousin Maggie came with her kid Stella, which was like 3.5 years ago. So, but other than that, they haven't seen anybody in my family at all. They haven't seen their grandparents at all. And of course, that's just devastating for grandparents. Grandparents live to have a relationship with their grandkids. And the other thing is, too, about that is there's no recourse for the grandparents. Like me, they're stuck in this legal situation where they have no access to the children, so they can't even tell the kids, hey, I wish I could be in your lives. Hey, I wish I could buy you presents or send you things. They can't even communicate that with the kids. And they can't communicate with the party who's doing the abuse, obviously. I mean, why would you talk to somebody who's actively engaging and abusing your grandchildren? It's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Love to have a lovely chat about the fact that you continue to abuse my grandchildren. It's just not realistic. That's not really how things go down. And one of the things about it that's really hard is that the victims start blaming each other. That's certainly happening in my case. A lot of people are like blaming me, like, oh, well, you shouldn't have posted that on social media, or you shouldn't have done this, or you shouldn't have done that. And then maybe you could have access to your kids. And it's like, no, none of that mattered at all. I have a Y chromosome. There was a corrupt judge who was friends with the defendant's father. And as soon as that went down, I never had a chance to do anything at all, ever. Since that time, I have never had, that hearing was in August of 2018. Since August of 2018, I have had no legal recourse to try to change the situation, try to change the custody situation, visitation situation, anything. I've gone to hearing after hearing, in court after court, lawyer after lawyer, psychologist after psychologist. Nothing I do matters at all. Literally at all. There's like literally I could be like a serial killer, or I could just like instantly send the defendant $1 million. Nothing that I do matters. They will not let me see my children. They will not let my parents see their grandchildren. They will not let my siblings see their niece and nephew. It literally doesn't matter what I do. And, but they can't very well complain to the perpetrator of all this abuse, because she's estranged from them the same way that she's estranged them from the children. She's also estranged them from herself, obviously. And who wants to talk to her anyway? Is a psychopath doing the most possible harm to her own children? Nobody wants to hang out or talk with somebody like that. And what would be the purpose? I mean, you're better off trying to talk sense into Jeffrey Dahmer than somebody like that. But, I mean, at least Jeffrey Dahmer wasn't hurting his own children. So there's that. But the thing is, the victims have nowhere to turn. You can't really do anything about the perpetrator of the crime. You can't really do anything to limit the damage that's being done. I mean, not seeing your own grandchildren for 6 years, that's pretty harsh treatment. And that's not something you can just, wish away or pretend is going to be fine, or think that there's going to be some kind of healing from. That's extreme harsh abuse. And it's been going on for 6 years. And so inevitably, some of the victims at some point usually get into a situation where they decide they want to blame one of the other victims. And it's usually the alienated parent. I mean, of course, right? Obviously, it's my fault somehow. It's my fault that my parents, my siblings, all of them can't see their niece and nephew or their grandkids. That's my fault somehow. It's clearly not my fault. If I had any access to the kids at all, they would be seeing all of their family members. We'd be doing family holidays, we'd be going on trips, we'd be doing all kinds of fun stuff, like we used to when I was a full-time dad. But none of what you do in the past matters at all. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear about it. They don't want to talk about it. The fact that I was a high wage earning person with no criminal record whatsoever, who had been working in the educational system for almost 20 years, none of that matters to anyone. They just don't care. The fact that she has multiple DUIs, worked in a marijuana dispensary, was going from guy to guy to guy to guy, and bringing the kids with her on the dates, none of that matters to anybody either. That's like, oh, you even bringing that up, that's like your issue now. Oh, you have a problem because you brought that up. It's like, well, yeah, I do have a problem with it because it's not good for the kids. That's all I've cared about from day one. As soon as I found out I was going to be a dad in late 2011, from that moment on, all I've cared about is my kids. And the ultimate punishment you can do to somebody who cares about their kids is not let them have access to the kids, not let them help the kids, not let them hug the kids, not let them do something that would be in the kids' interest. That's the harshest thing you can do to a parent who really cares about their kids. And guess what's happening? Exactly that. And it has been happening for like 6 years now. So 5.5 years. It's like, it's almost pointless to quibble about what the actual time allotment is or any of the details. It's like talking about the past. Nobody cares. You can point out like, well, hey, I never did anything wrong, and then this and this and this happened. They don't care. They're like, well, what about now? Now you like wrote a mean song or, posted on social media 5 years ago that somebody was a whore. It's like, okay, so like none of that has ever entered into any of this anyway. It's not like ever in any of these courtrooms they were like, oh, well, you wrote that mean song. They don't care. That's in the past. They don't care about that any more than they would care about the fact that I used to make a lot of money, that I, have no criminal record, and that the opposing party does have a criminal record. They don't care. It's in the past. It doesn't matter. And then ostensibly, supposedly, the court system cares about right now. But I just told the judge in Hawaii in August that if he grants the move away order, she's going to use that to keep me from seeing my kids at all for months. It's been a month already. I haven't had one video chat with the kids this entire month. And that's not likely to change anytime soon. Because when you move to a new state, you got to move the court case to a new courthouse. You got to go find a new service that's going to watch you spend time with your kids. Because that's super necessary, given the fact that I got a restraining order from a personal friend of the defendant's father. I mean, that's the absurdity of this whole thing. There's so much absurdity. It's like, where do you even start? Where do you start unpacking this? I've never harmed anybody. I've never threatened to harm anybody. I have no criminal record. I don't do drugs. I don't drink too much. I literally, there's nothing wrong with me. And yet still, 5 years later, I'm not allowed to spend time with my children, see my children, talk to my children. I got emails from the children's teachers, and which was very nice, actually. Up to this point, I haven't had access to their teachers, to their schooling, none of that. And so I emailed the teachers back, and I was like, hey, I'm Everett and Grace's dad. One of the teachers was a 4th grade teacher. One of them was a 2nd grade teacher. So I'm assuming that I know whose teacher is whose, but I literally actually don't know because I have no access to the children. I have no ability to ask the kids, hey, what's your teacher's name? Hey, how's your new school? Hey, have you made friends at your new school? I can't talk about any of that with them. I can't talk about anything at all with them. I can't talk to them, period. And for what? Because I didn't want to get cheated on 6 years ago by somebody who was already cheating on me? It's like, oh, you didn't want to get cheated on, therefore you are a terrible, terrible person, terrible father, and you will not be allowed to see your children at all for 6 years. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at now, 6 years later. No access to the kids, no ability to tell them that I love them, that I'm thinking about them. I can't tell them that I've gone to courthouse after courthouse after courthouse. I can't tell them that I've spent $500,000 trying to see them. I can't tell them anything at all because I have no access to them, none. And similarly, my parents have no access to them. My step-parents have no access to them. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, family, friends. Nobody has access to my kids. Nobody can tell them, your dad loves you, he's thinking about you, he misses you, he cares about you. And it's just very interesting to me. And I expect it. I mean, I've been in this seat for long enough to know what's happening. That I end up being the whipping boy for these other people too. They're like, oh, it's your fault we don't get to see our cousin. It's your fault we don't get to see our nephew, niece, grandkids. Really? What could I have done differently? You know, I zoom out sometimes. I think, what could I have done differently? There is nothing I could have done differently. There is not one single thing I could have done differently. Oh, there is one thing I could have done differently. I could have not married a whore. If I hadn't married a whore, none of this would have happened. But unfortunately, once you marry a whore, you've already, the writing's on the wall. You're done. Especially in this country with, you know, child support laws and family court and the corruption and the criminality of it all. The fact that none of this is even based on the best interest of the kids at all is just absurd. You know, if it was in the best interest of the kids, it would be 50-50 custody until somebody's like proven beyond a shadow of a doubt with the jury of their peers that there's something very wrong with them. But that doesn't happen. It's just one person shows up, they say one thing, the other person says something. The judge makes a snap decision, this person's more credible. And then boom, that's it. That's it. That's the end of your life as a parent. That's the end of your children's lives as a child of a parent. It's just over. And here we are, 6 years later. Nothing has changed. There's never been a smidgen of like, oh, if you do this, maybe we'll let you have the kids. Or, oh, if you do this, maybe we'll let you talk to the kids. Nothing. No negotiation. No ability to kind of like diffuse the situation. Nothing. They just... There's never been an option for any of that. And now I have to hear it from everybody else who's being abused. It's like I'm one of the primary victims here, and now I got to hear it from the other victims because they can't actually face the person who's actually doing them harm, who's doing my children harm. You know, everybody feels a responsibility towards children. You know, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody feels a responsibility towards children. And when you can't help children because you're powerless to do so, it's very painful, agitating, irritating, and nobody wants to be in that situation. And now we are all in that situation. We've all been in that situation for over 5 years. So, you know, who gets the blame? Who gets the abuse from all the other victims? The alienated parent, in this case, certainly. It's like, and everybody says, oh, you could have done this differently, you could have done that differently. It wouldn't have mattered. Nothing that I do matters at all. Hasn't mattered in 5 years. Somebody has the power, somebody has the legal right to do what they want and limit and abuse our children in the most harsh way. And there's nothing anybody of us can do about it.